Hello and welcome to Comics in Context. I'm Mark,
I'm Derek.
and we're two historians who love comics. In this show, we aim to take a look at comics, old and modern, and put them in the context of the time in which they were written. Along the way, we may also have the chance to pick up some fun references. We're not looking to apologize for any content, but we realize that as time goes by, people use modern lenses to read older books. The more you study history, the less you realize you know. So let's get things started.
And today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do our Mount Rushmore of Comics lists. This is going around every so often. It comes back in the comic world. Who do people think would be on that top 4 list? And so we're going to provide several different of our own lists that we think would fit into this Mount Rushmore of comics.
I love it. And Derek, have you been to Mount Rushmore?
Not yet. It's definitely on my list, more for the Black Hills and the Crazy Horse Memorial, but you got to go see the Mount Rushmore at some point as well.
Oh, you do. And if you happen to go that far, be sure to find your way to the Wounded Knee Memorial as well. It's on the reservation. And the Crazy Horse Monument is just awesome. But I've been to Mount Rushmore twice, once when I was 5 and once when I was 52. And as a 5-year-old, it was far more impressive.
Yeah.
As a 52-year-old, it's like, wow, that's really cool. But I think now we just see so many pictures of it that like once you're overexposed, it loses some of its magic.
Yeah, and just like the pictures can get so much closer than you actually can. You're just like, those are some nice carvings. Cool.
Yeah. In 2004, my wife and I, we went to England, went to Stonehenge, and I was just so excited to see Stonehenge. And all of it was magical to me. I said, so what do you think? And she goes, well, it's rocks on a hill. And I said, well, but it's Stonehenge. She goes, I've seen so many pictures of it that now I feel like I've seen it. I'm not that impressed. I go, oh, no. But there's the reality.
It is. That's the challenge. And when I go to those places, I don't even take pictures myself now because I'm like, I can find a better picture online. Let me just experience this like in person because that's I find more impactful.
Oh, you can. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can find somebody's picture that's far better.
Far better. They took the time.
Yeah, but before we get into their list, we did want to talk about kind of this whole concept of your list doesn't have to be my list, and my reasons don't have to be your reasons. And Derek and I, we're going to give we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different Rushmore lists that we want to give. And we realize that when you see people put their lists online, this gets very controversial, wouldn't you say?
It does. It gets really heated, and it's a really silly thing to get heated about. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I think the biggest one that we see is if somebody leaves Wonder Woman off of their list, they're instantly accused of being a misogynist, which is entirely inaccurate. It could just mean that for their list, Wonder Woman doesn't make it. It doesn't mean that they don't like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it just maybe there's other top 4s or whatever the reason we're going to get into what even qualifies someone for their list, and sometimes Wonder Woman doesn't fit.
Exactly. But for the record, I think she appears on our combined lists 3 times. So good for us.
Please don't attack us.
All right. Well, let's jump in with our Mount Rushmore lists.
All right. So our first category that we did was our personal favorites, our modern personal favorites. And so for my list, that would be, I would put Batman, Lady Death, She-Hulk, and Harley Quinn. 3 out of 4 would be women in this one. But that would be my current top faves. What about you?
All right. Qualify it. Before I tell you mine, why did you choose your 4?
Oh, I mean, Batman, of course. Batman has been the reason I've been in comics. I've been watching like animated Batman since I was a kid, and that's what got me in. And so he, of course, has to be there. Harley Quinn has been my number 2 for a very, very long time. I remember growing up watching Batman Beyond, where Joker and Harley come back, and that just has stuck with me forever. And then Lady Death and She-Hulk are like my 2 big faves right now. I'm trying to do my completionist collections of them. And I don't know why. I love their writing. I love the way that they're portrayed. Just these badass, tough women that just don't let anyone throw them down. It's fantastic.
You know, something I've always found entertaining about your passion for Lady Death is that once you get to know Derek, you realize he's one of the most peaceful people you can meet. He wants kindness and love and no one to suffer. And yet one of his favorite characters is Lady Death.
Yeah, and her original goal was Mega Death, mass just genocide, so that she could return to Earth. All humans have to die.
It's
It's very,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, and you made me read that story, and it was a good story.
It's a good story, yeah. And it's not her anymore, but uh, it's just fun to, I don't know, she's an interesting character and she's just tough. And I mean, Brian Pulido just writes her fantastically.
Absolutely. All right, so my personal current favorites, if this is the current today, this is what I'm really enjoying, and I got to slap it up on a mountain, would be Conan the Barbarian, Geiger, Man Thing, and Star Wars. And I think there's kind of a theme in all of those. There's like an adventure type of theme. There's a bit of a heroic theme in all four of mine. I've always loved Conan since I was a kid. Since I first saw the original movie in 1982 when I was 10 years old, I was hooked. And so I still read the Conan books today. I try my hand at writing Conan fiction. It's not always great, but I love the comic books. And the current stuff by Titan is maybe the best Conan that's out there for sure. Geiger by Jeff Johns, Image Publishing. I love Geiger. It has that same adventure tone. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world, but he's this reluctant hero, and so there's depth to him. And I think that's when you look at a lot of my choices today. There's depth to them. Man Thing. I just love that it's this poor, sad being that exists on empathy. And yeah, anyone who knows fear burns at the touch of the Man Thing. I think that's just something they had to put in to justify a superhero-ish gimmick. But I just love the character, and I always feel sad for him when I read his story. So I'm on a big Man Thing kick at the moment. And then Star Wars. I was 5 when the first movie came out. Saw it in the drive-in. I can't pass up a Star Wars comic. Lately, Star Wars comics are not that great, but I'm putting Star Wars in general. If I had to choose a symbol for Star Wars, because you can't put the whole cast up there, my Mount Rushmore, it would be probably the Rebel symbol.
All right. That's true. I love the stories. I got more into like reading the books, like the books rather than the comics, because I've seen mixed things about the comics. And again, a funny thing like the and so peaceful, but like I love the Sith side of Star Wars. I love reading like Darth Bane. I mean, you can't see it on a podcast, but I have the Exploding Sun Order of the Sith tattoo. I love the Star Wars too. I maybe should add that to my list. All right,
That's what happens, right? So you hear somebody else's list, you're like,
shoot.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, you could see how Mount Rushmore is suddenly 50 people.
Yeah. All right. So give us your origin list.
Yes, so our origin list, mine's going to be fully DC. Batman and Harley are still going to be up there, and then Superman and Wonder Woman are going to go there. I have the Holy Trinity, and I throw in my Harley, and I'm happy with that for sure. That's what got me into comics. Those are what I was reading. Really, when I started getting in deep, when I first got the app, those are what my core reads were, and still are. I still am pulling basically all of those pretty consistently.
Oh, interesting. So I just learned something about you. You began reading comics on an app, not with floppies or trades?
I started a little bit with the floppies, but they were just kind of hard to, they were obviously a little hard to get. And my parents didn't take me to like the comic shops when I was a kid. And so then once I was able to get the app, I started binging like crazy because then I had access to them in a very easy way.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, my origin list, similar to you, it's what did I start buying when I was a kid? What really got me into this hobby? It was the X-Men. No particular character. My very first X-Men comic was issue 210. I saw it at a 7-Eleven. It's just a completely badass cover for, I think, a 13-year-old to see on a shelf. I bought it and hooked ever since. I was 13 or 14. So X-Men, and on the mountain, I would just have the X with the circle around it. That would be my symbol. Gru the Wanderer, Conan the Barbarian, and Spidey. Gru, it's just funny. I know Sergio Aragones, he's been creating that character now for 40 plus years. He's got a new story coming out now, and the guy's in his 80s. Wow. He's still writing Gru, and it's still funny. So Gru has always been funny, and he's the comic version of Conan the Barbarian. So where Conan is serious and dark, Gru is comical, and he's an idiot. But it's great. So Conan, I've already explained my love for Conan, but when I first started going to comic shops and I saw that they make Conan the Barbarian comic books, I was hooked. And then Spider-Man. Obviously, Spider-Man was big in the cultural memory, even in the 80s. I used to watch the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon with, who was on that? Iceman and Firestar? And so I saw that there were Spider-Man comic books, and boom, there I went.
Excellent. All right, so our next couple, we're going to go DC publisher, Marvel publisher, and then just indie, because we can't get into every single indie. There's too many. So for my DC, of course, Batman and Harley are still going to be there. And then I'm going to throw in two others. I'm going to do Cassandra Cain as Batgirl, and then Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern. So I've talked plenty about Batman and Harley. Cassandra Cain, I don't know. I just love her. Of course, we get some representation, some Asian heritage, which is really great. But she's just such an interesting character. The whole that she was trained on body language first. Before actually learning physical language. I just find her to be a really interesting character. And then Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, I've really just enjoyed her. Again, another diverse character. She's Latina, and she's one of the first female Green Lanterns I think we see, at least like within the Earth. But her whole big thing is that she has severe trauma, is completely agoraphobic. So she's totally opposite of what we see as normal Green Lanterns. So we're seeing Jessica Cruz already has a ring and is trying to get over her fear. So she's kind of starting in a different way. And that just always really resonated well with me, of like pushing through that anxiety. Like she literally saw her friends get murdered in front of her by the mob. And so she has to work through that and not be afraid of going out in the world anymore. So that really resonated with me. And then in the canon, she's sometimes shown to be the most powerful human Green Lantern. So just to watch that heroic rise, I just love Jessica Cruz. Yeah.
That's cool. I know nothing of her, but I see a theme in all four of yours there. You got Batman, Harley, Cass, and Jessica Cruz. They're all four are fairly broken characters.
Yes, they're all very broken in very different but similar ways. All of them actually pretty much came from pretty broken households or have very severe trauma, but it's about overcoming that and then turning that into heroics, being able to help people.
Yeah. Well, my DC choice, I'm going to have Batman, Prime, and I'll explain why. Absolute Wonder Woman, and then Wesley Dodds, Golden Age Sandman. Batman, something about him is just very appealing. There's a reason he's the number one comic book seller out there. He doesn't have superpowers, and he uses his wealth to try to fight crime. And he doesn't like to kill, and I've always liked that about Batman.
Yes.
Superman Prime, he's very controversial. People don't like him. I have never been a big DC reader. So what DC books I read, that's what I'm exposed to. I went back and forth. I was like, well, Aquaman, I used to like him as a kid, but I don't read Aquaman now. I've tried and I just don't enjoy it. But in the latest Superman series, the Superman Reign of the Superboys, I really got intrigued by this character Prime, and I've started to read some back issue stuff of his. I know that he went from, committing genocide to the whole DC universe to now he's on a redemption arc. But to me, he's funny. I like the character, at least the way he's written now. People don't have to write in and say, what about this? What about that? Because I probably haven't read it yet. But for right now, he's one of my favorite DC characters. Absolute Wonder Woman, not mainline Wonder Woman. Only because I don't read mainline Wonder Woman. I'm familiar with her. I know of her. She appears in things. She's great. But the Absolute Wonder Woman really grabs me. Raised in hell. She sacrifices one of her limbs to save a human being. She's just amazing. She's a hero's hero, and I find her to be really engaging. And then Wesley Dodds, it's very similar to Batman. I've read all 70 issues of Sandman Mystery Theater, and his character is just really engaging to me. He uses his wealth for good, and he's got maybe a little magical power to see the future through dreams. But I love that idea of somebody who uses their wealth for good. That's why Wesley's on my list.
Yeah, it's a good list. All right, our Marvel. So we're going to probably see the opposite because you've read a lot more Marvel than I have.
I have.
So my Marvel, She-Hulk obviously is still going to be up there. I'm going to put the Hulk up there too because as the more I'm getting into She-Hulk, the more I'm just interested in the Hulk stuff as well. Spidey, just because I think he is so important to Marvel in general. And again, those original 3 Spider-Man movies, those are the big ones that I watched a lot as a kid. And his name,
Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire, there we go, yes. Yeah. And that is forever my Spider-Man, right? Because that's what we saw. And that second one where the Doc Ock's wife gets a glass shard through her eye, that scarred me as a kid. That was horrifying. So Spidey's going to be up there, and then I'm going to throw Deadpool up there. It's just a fun Marvel character. I love my fourth wall breakers with She-Hulk, and then Deadpool does a lot of that too, and he's just quirky and irreverent and just kind of fun.
I can totally get behind your list, for sure. Mine would be Spidey, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Mohawk Storm. So my X bias is kind of coming out in that list. But for me, Spider-Man is the number one Marvel character. I know everybody has their favorites. Some people like their side characters, their B list, their C list. Sometimes their D list characters as their favorites. Respect to all Marvel characters, but for me, Spidey tops the list. He rescued that company and really brought them back from near bankruptcy. Nightcrawler, character from the X-Men, he's always been my favorite X-Man. And I think it's because I could identify with him. He's a blue fuzzy elf. He looks like a demon and teleports and all that. But I often wished that when I was a kid, I had the ability to teleport. But I resonate with his sort of dislike of his own physical appearance. I felt the same way when I was a teenager. And I kind of had this, this self-conscious concept about myself. And I was really drawn to him. But he's just inherently just a really good person. And I like that. Wolverine, it's the snickety snack, it's the claws. Again, I was 14 or whatever I was, and then my first issue of X-Men, he's on the cover with his claws out, smoking a cigar, and I just thought, I need to know more about him. Oddly, though, I will put Wolverine up there, but for me, Wolverine is better as a side character. Anytime he gets a mainline title, and he's had some really successful long-running runs, I get bored with them really fast.
Yeah.
I like it when he's in the story, but maybe not always the lead of the story. And then Mohawk Storm. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mohawk Storm, but that's when Cyclops had quit the X-Men, and Storm gets this gnarly mohawk because that's what she looked like when I started buying X-Men, so that's why she's there. But she would just really took on this leader mode. I find in modern context, she's like really a bit too serious, a bit too mystical, a bit too goddess-like, which is fair because they thought that she was the lightning goddess, the storm goddess of Africa. But I like her a little more grounded, a little more badass, a little more willing to punch you in the face and say, knock it off. She's got a team to lead. So for me, Mohawk Storm was the ultimate in just kick butt females.
That's a
All right.
good
So
list.
what about your indie list?
All right, so my indie, we're heavily into the Chaos Coffin here. So Lady Death, of course, she's going to top my indie list for sure. La Morta is going to be my next one. So that's also from Coffin Universe. Brian Pulido released this. Again, a Hispanic woman who also goes through serious trauma. She comes back as a war veteran and then finds out her family got a little bit involved with the cartel. Cartel shows up on Dia de Muerte and massacres her family in front of her, tries to kill her, and then she comes back as this vigilante. Eventually actually gets blessed by Santa Muerte and gets some Aztec powers. So it gets kind of fun. But for a lot of it, she's not powerful at all. But Brian goes crazy with the gore in these books, and it's just like the art is super gritty and fun. It's all like Joel Gomez, who I met at WonderCon, who's again just a down-to-earth wonderful person. So I love La Morta, and then Evil Ernie is just fantastic as well. That's what launched Chaos, which was more important than Lady Death. Evil Ernie is what started it. Lady Death was just the B-lister there. And Evil Ernie is just crazy fun. And then I'm going to throw Vampirella on my indie list as well. She's gone through some eras, and I don't love all of her eras. But when she's done, like, horror-wise, it's just fantastic. Just great horror. Great, again, another monster who's fighting for the side of humanity, trying to stop all of the other monsters. It's very interesting.
I love it. And I remember when we found Brian Pulido in the crowd at WonderCon, waiting to get in on that weird morning where they weren't letting anybody in for no reason that they gave us. Everybody got in about 15 or 20 minutes late. Didn't you ask him, will there ever be a Lady D and La Muerta crossover?
Yes. Well, we've seen a little bit of Lady Death La Morta. The next thing that they're going to release soon, actually, La Morta is crossing over with Lady Gunfighter, who is just another like small lister they have. And then there's been talks about bringing Lady Death and Evil Ernie back together, because he still has Lady Death's IP, but Dynamite has Evil Ernie. So there's the potential of bringing Evil Ernie and Lady Death back together, which, since they've diverged so much as characters, it'll be interesting to see how they get along.
Yeah, I learned a lot while you two were talking. It was kind of fun to listen to. Okay, so my indie list, no surprise, I'm going to put Conan on there. I'm going to have Red Sonja, Gru the Wanderer, and Geiger. And people will say that Conan and Red Sonja don't count because they're IPs that were licensed by. Doesn't matter to me, just because they were published by Marvel for a while. Now they are indie comics, and I really enjoy them. It's not to say that I enjoy every Red Sonja comic book that comes out. There are ups and there are downs, but I liked her when she was in the old Conan comic books and in the Marvel days, and I like her now. Conan, I've given my reasons. The Titan Comics run is absolutely stunning. Grew the Wanderer. It was one of my favorite comic books as a kid, and I'll still buy it now. And then Geiger. Of course, I've already had him on another Mount Rushmore. So that's my indie list.
It's a good list.
Right. And the current run that just started 2026 when we're recording this, they just put issue 3 out. It's really good. It's some good Red Sonja stuff.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that story. All right, so then we're going to get into our big one, the most subjective, but what would we think is the most influential characters in comics in general?
That was a music pause.
Okay.
I just didn't want to cut you off.
Okay. All right, so
okay,
our most influential, we're going to have to look, at least for mine, it's like what launched DC, what launched Marvel, basically. So Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four. For the Rushmore, you just have to put like the big 4 symbol. But right, those are fundamental for why we even have comics the way we do today. Of course, people want to add Wonder Woman, and I can very much see that. But if I wanted to just do 2 from each of the big 2, Batman, Superman, Action Comics, DC Comics are the reason DC exists. Spider-Man and Fantastic Four are really the reason that Marvel is where it is today.
I like your list. Mine's got some similarities on there. I've got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, not absolute, but original Wonder Woman, and the Hulk. And I'll explain the Hulk here. But Batman, it's Detective Comics. Superman maybe would have taken off, maybe not. But Batman, I think, is what drew readers in 3-4 years after Superman. And it just allowed so much to happen. So Batman has to be up there. Superman has to be up there because he's the first. I mean, there were other small little things going on out in the universe at the time, but he's the first big superhero comic book, and you can't deny his staying power. 88 years later, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I chose Wonder Woman, not because I really enjoyed some of those early Wonder Woman ones. I know we recorded an episode about Wonder Woman -- 1, but I think that she set the bar for what a female superhero could be and how they could be powerful. And she's badass. You got to give her credit. You know,
Yes.
in some ways, I may think, well, I don't know about all of her powers and the lasso and all of that. That's all fun, but I think she's influential. And without her, we may not have seen the rise of other really cool female characters.
Yeah.
And I really went back and forth for this 4th choice between Spidey, Fantastic Four, or Hulk. And I like your reasons for Spidey. I love your reasons for Fantastic Four. I'm going Hulk because I think he entered the cultural milieu, if you like that big word. I think he entered the cultural milieu bigger and faster than any other Marvel character at the time. I know all 3 comic books came out around the same general era, but he's the first with this kind of body dysmorphia. He changes into these bigger things. I think the early stories dealt with a lot more of like the reluctant superhero type of thing. Spidey has that as well, of course. And Hulk immediately starts showing up on clothing and, in advertisements and with toys. It's not to say that the others didn't, but I think Hulk was at the time incredibly influential to what a superhero could be. I don't think he is now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him on my list now as top Marvel characters, and I didn't. But at the time, I'm sticking with Hulk. That's my choice.
I see that. And I think this is the category that most people are saying when they're making their Mount Rushmore lists. They're not saying necessarily my Mount Rushmore is the most influential characters, but when I see they're arguing about influence usually. And that's like the whole subjectivity of the Mount Rushmore is there's so many ways to go about this.
Right. And to build on that, when you get into that subjectivity, and if anybody listening to this does ever go online, you will see lots of finger pointing, lots of accusations. It's a bit ridiculous because not everybody's read the same things you have. So, why am I picking Hulk? Well, I used to read Hulk and I used to read Spidey. I've never read Fantastic Four. So I understand who they are, but, you have to also build on what you know. And rather than attack somebody for why would you put Fantastic Four on there? How about, well, why would you put Fantastic Four on there? Like, explain that to me. Help me learn from you.
Yeah, just like an authentic conversation. And not everyone has the historical context. People getting brand new into comics aren't going to know that Detective Comics 27 is what launched DC. Like, why would they know that? Why would they know Fantastic Four launched Marvel? So, like, we have the historical context to be able to think about that. But the average person is just, I think these characters were great, and I think they're a lot of fun. And a lot of people lean into what were the big movie characters now. I see Iron Man on a lot of lists, Captain America, because of the movie franchises have been launched by that.
And if you were reared and raised and came up in the era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, well, credit to you. That's what you know.
Yeah, and Iron Man's going to be huge because that launched Marvel's money-making endeavors. Was that first Iron Man for sure?
It sure did. Well, you mentioned earlier about, we all have characters we like. We both put together kind of a Mount Rushmore of our faves, but they're not getting on the mountain. So,
Yeah.
what are your non-mountain faves?
All right, so yeah, almost interestingly, all women. But so Raven from DC, I love Raven. Teen Titans, Purgatory from the Chaos universe now with Dynamite. She's okay in Dynamite, but in Chaos is great fun. But again, very reluctant. Here it was turned into a vampire, didn't want to be, and becomes one of the most powerful characters in the universe. I love Big Barda from DC from New Gods. I'm trying so hard to get her key. Mr. Miracle number 4, that's on my list. Jarro, I freaking love Jarro. If you don't know Jarro, it's in the Justice League 2018 run after they kill Starro in Justice League No Justice. Batman takes a part of Starro and puts him in a jar, and then it becomes a tiny little jar. It becomes Jarro, Starro in a jar, and he turns into a Robin, and he's so freaking adorable. And like he literally calls Batman Dad, and it's just so cute. And I love Jarro. I need to get a Jarro tattoo because I love Jarro so much. But he's not influential in any way. But he's just amazing. And then just like Witchblade, I think great character, but not super influential. Hell Witch, which is in the Coffin universe, since Brian lost the IP to Purgatory, she's basically the replacement. And then Aspen from the Fathom universe, she's just a fun character. And I think Michael Turner was an excellent writer and artist. And I think that's really what launched his kind of universe and career.
Wow, great list. I'm thinking, boy, you got some deep dives there. And
It's a
that's
deep
super
cut
fun.
for sure.
Some of my faves, because it's really hard to pick out all of them, but when they appear in a comic book, I get excited. That's how I chose this list. Would be Black Cat. I've always thought Felicia was kind of a neat character, not for some of the obvious reasons of the way she's drawn, but I like her playfulness. I like the fact that she knows who Peter is but doesn't betray him, and I like this power of luck. You just know it's there, and she's always going to escape, but maybe not in the way that she thinks. So I like that. Deadpool, the fourth wall breaks just crack me up. Yeah, it can be a little irreverent, and I like the juvenile humor sometimes, but when he shows up in a comic, I realize I'm going to laugh. Iceman, he was one of my first favorite X-Men. He's sort of been sidelined now, particularly after they had him come out of the closet as gay. He's really doesn't do much anymore, which is a bummer. But I used to really love his humor. When he was sliding around on ice in the X-Men, he would be funny. And he was sort of the comic relief of the X-Men back in the day. Simon Pure, who's the lead character from Redcoat. I love him. Again, he's this ne'er-do-well, reluctant hero, doesn't really like the lot he's been given, but since he's immortal, he's going to do his best to try to do his best. And I just love the character. He's very engaging to me. You turned me on to Evil Ernie. Despite the fact that he would just really prefer to murder everybody on the planet, he's entertaining. And in fact, maybe more so for me, if I was to put Evil Ernie up there, I'd have to give enough of his jacket to show Smiley, because that button Smiley to me, he's hilarious.
Hilarious.
I love Smiley. And my last choice for now, but all throughout the day, I'm going to be thinking of more, would be OMAC. I had a friend turn me on to OMAC a couple of years ago. He let me read the original series of OMAC. I've never read new OMAC, just old. And I just love 70s OMAC. It's campy, it's ridiculous, but the character's really likable. I like Buddy Blank. He's great.
Yeah, you have a lot of just very empathetic characters. Okay, yeah, our last three options are kind of weird. So we're going to do our villains and then our top writers and artists. So do you want to start off with villains?
Sure. So my top villains, it's going to show my Marvel bias here, but to be fair to the other side, I did pick Joker. I've always enjoyed Joker. Uh, just as a kid watching the Batman TV show. Whenever Cesar Romero would come on and his ridiculous laugh and his purple pants and all that, I loved it. But then I started reading comic books right around the time of Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke. I've always been intrigued by Joker, and whenever he shows up now, I get excited for that. Nimrod from the X-Men, terrible name, but
Terrible name.
he was one of the first bad guys in the series when I first started reading, and he's just this unstoppable robot. I mean, spoiler, he's stoppable, but I like the mystery of how are they going to defeat him this time. The Brood, another X-Men enemy. I don't know if you've seen The Brood, but I know you're really into the Xenomorph from Aliens, which neither of us put on our list, by the way.
I forgot about the Xenomorph.
All right, I'm putting Xenomorph up on my indie list. But the Brood is kind of like the alien of the Marvel universe. They're currently showing up in the new X-Men runner. They just did in the Gail Simone Uncanny X-Men. Totally underused, but there's a great arc of them back in the 80s. So I love the Brood because they're just vicious, fangs and tails. And then Magneto. I liked it when Magneto was a bad guy. I've never been a fan of Magneto as a good guy, even though he has been now for 30 years. I liked it when he was the villain.
He was a great villain. All right, yeah, I don't know how we forgot Xenomorphs.
I know.
They're weird because they're like a character, but also not a character. I have their key, and yet I still forgot Xenomorphs. All right, so my villain's 100% DC in this case. And let's see, I love Bane. You got to go back to like the original Bane, who is calculating and planning and a true mastermind. And then of course the Venom is just icing on the cake, but it's really his mind, which is just incredible. Joker again is just a fantastic villain. When he's done well, just the depth that they go into of his character development, of his psychosis and all that kind of stuff. He becomes kind of very cringy and weird in some of the more modern interpretations, but like again, I grew up on Mark Hamill's voice acting of Joker, and man, Mark Hamill does him fantastically, and he's just like one of the most horrific villains that can exist when he really goes into it. My third would be Poison Ivy. Even like she's again a great villain from the start. Batman 181 is on my key list as well, and like she realizes the problem that's facing the Earth is humans, and her solution maybe is a little extreme, but I think it works well. And now her relationship with Harley is just so cute, so adorable. There's such a perfect match. And then for my final one, I'd put Darkseid on like the DC big bad. He is, if you're going to look at like who is generally the biggest threat of DC, it's him, and he's done so well. Like especially like in Final Crisis, he's just sitting in his chair the whole time. He could be just decimating everybody with ease, but he's like, let's just send my kids. Let's just watch things happen.
And when you do I know eventually you will get into reading the Forever People, that 8 issues or whatever. When Darkseid first shows up, he's just this really campy, weird dude. He doesn't even have this ominous presence. He's just an evil guy with evil minions. I really hope you get to read that soon because he's ridiculous.
He is. He's a really weird character, and the arcs and like the amount of like anything in DC, he's died so many times. Yeah. All right. So then we're going to look at our writers and artists, and obviously some of these get a little blurry because many of them did do both. But so for my top 4 writers, and mostly these are people who I think are incredibly influential for even just comics in general, and then some of my favorites. So Jack Kirby, I mean, of course, you got to put the Kirby up there for both DC and Marvel. He's just done incredible work and really helped so much of them. You got to put Stan Lee on there for obvious reasons for Marvel, and then I got to put Bob Kane, the founder of Batman, of course, and then I'm going to put Brian Pulido for Chaos and Coffin Comics because that's just my thing right now. I love them, and he's just a fantastic writer. His world building is just incredible, and he's a great guy if you ever get a chance to meet him. He's just super nice and a happy little guy, despite
he was really nice,
gruff appearance, and like he very rarely smiles in pictures. There's always a scowl, but then he's a super nice guy.
He was really nice when we met him outside of WonderCon.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so my Mount Rushmore of writers is going to be more of the writers that get me excited when I see their name on something. So I didn't go for big influence. I went for like, they influence my purchasing power. I guess I'm going to put it that way. So Jason Aaron, I will read anything that he writes. G. Willow Wilson, again, I'll try anything. Oddly enough, I haven't read Poison Ivy. I hear it's great.
It is.
but when I see her name on a book, I'll often pick it up. I think she's just a great writer. She writes emotions really well. Jim Zub, who's writing Conan the Barbarian by Titan, he is just an incredible action writer. He knows the character well. And then speaking of Conan, Roy Thomas, way back in the day, in the early 100s of Conan, he was the writer. But he wrote a lot of other great 70s stuff as well for Marvel. I will read anything that Roy Thomas writes, and I'm still glad that he's writing today. He just recently did a story for Savage Sword of Conan by Titan, and it's great. And it just has that old school feel. When you read it, you're like, yeah, this guy knows Conan. So there's kind of an adventure theme for 3 of my 4 on that one there.
Yeah.
All right, so artists. I'll wrap it up with the artist list then. So for me, these are the artists that, again, I get excited about. If I see that their name is on a project, I'm likely going to want to pick it up, whether it's an old project or a new. And I will start with my Conan bias of Doug Braithwaite. He's drawn a lot of the current Conan stuff, and his drawings are able to bring Hyboria to life. And I've always thought that when you read a Conan comic book, the world that Conan is in is just as much important as the character himself. And he adds so many details to really just enrich the environment. John Buscema, same reason. Conan, I got to put him on there. But when I see his name on other projects, I get excited. He's just an old school Conan artist. Jack Kirby, I will always take time to look at a Jack Kirby comic book. I know the drawings by today's standards are old and sometimes look a little cheesy, but there's something just so comforting. That's the word I'm looking for. There's something like, yeah, this is comic books right here. Like this guy did it. Not so much on the writing side, but I do like his writing, but I'm more of a Kirby art guy. And my last would be Brian Hitch, who's currently drawing Redcoat. But I've seen his art and other things. Again, it goes back to the detailing, kind of like Doug Braithwaite. Like that guy can draw. All right. So what about your artists?
All right, so probably my number one artist of all time, Stephen Hughes, who did the early Chaos comics. Sadly, died very early 2000s. It was a huge loss, but just a fantastic artist doing everything by hand. And the depth. Like, he did whole double-page spreads of all these angels and demons from hell about to face off in a giant war. Lady Death flying in on Visago. Her, just incredible detailing. He was just truly such a talented man, and again, just looked like such the sweetest guy. So he's always going to be my number one. I'm going to put David Mack up there as well, who did Kabuki. Not as well known, but he just does really interesting style. Every book is different. The first one's completely black and white. Then it goes into collage color. He does watercolor. He's always trying to push the bounds of what a comic book can look like. It's never just straight panels. It's very artistic, so it's just very different and thought-provoking. I'm going to put John Byrne up there for Sensational She-Hulk. It's just classic Marvel. And I think he does both some of the art and the writing, but I think he was just fun. He does great covers and just did She-Hulk really well. And then Michael Turner I'm going to put on as well, another person who sadly died too early. So he's Fathom, Aspen, Witchblade, Laura Croft from Tomb Raider, all that kind of stuff. And very much when you see his style, you know his style.
Good justifications there. You're right. In the Michael Turner, when you see his art, you know his art. That's for sure.
You know his art, yep.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap up our special Mount Rushmore edition of Comics in Context. Naturally, there will always be those that disagree or perhaps want to add additional context, or in this case, additional choices, or to tell us that we're wrong on our choices. But you can't be wrong on your personal choices. And that's okay, because in history, that's what we do all the time, and we believe in doing it respectfully. So that brings us to a way we like to wrap up each episode with our final words.
All right, so just remembering, this is a fun thing to look at and deciding how we want our tops to be. But again, it is completely subjective, and I think what's more important, and just is more important in the historical field in general, is having backing it up with evidence is always very important, and then respecting people's opinions, right? Not questioning, oh, why did you do this, and not have this person's like, oh, that's really interesting. Why did you choose to do that? And that's something we do in history all the time, right? You have this opinion, you have this argument about how we want to look at this historical detail. What's your facts? What's your evidence behind that? And even if you're coming to an opinion based, then you still want to provide some of that. But it is ultimately subjective. And at the end of the day, it is comics. They're just for fun. They're not that important to our real life. And we can just have a fun time making our lists of who our top 4 people are, and that's just fun, and respect other people's choices too, because it's just fun.
It's just fun, and that's what we had today. We had fun. Well, we look forward to having you join us again for Comics in Context. If you like what you've heard, we genuinely appreciate the like and even a subscribe if you're so inclined. Respectful comments and messages are also always appreciated. Have a great day, be kind to yourself, and be kind to others.